Hello and welcome back to the channel. So we're going to get started on, this is part 2 of Lylewood, but first, don't forget my sponsor, Zforce Modelworx. Type in rake 10, you get 10% off of your order, and we thank you for your business. Also, don't forget about the new Model Car Enthusiast podcast on Lucas C's channel and on Spotify. That's coming up. I don't have a date of when that'll open yet, but I will be one of the hosts on that, so don't forget about that. Okay, now let's take a look. So last time, let's review a little bit. We're making Lylewood, which is by Lyle Willits. He taught me this many years ago, how to do this, and I'm just passing it on. But we had to do some prep work. And there's a reason I went this order. So I wanted to paint the body first because we did this in lacquer and urethane. And then as we start to weather the wood, if we get on this here, we can wipe that right off with water and it'll wash off really easy. So I chose to paint my body first. Now you don't have to do it this way. You can do it your own way, whatever way you want it. There is no right or wrong answer. It just, to me, it seems easier. Well, it's a little work, but it's easier to paint first. And then I can, even if your color went a little bit over into here, you could scrape it off a little bit. The one thing I did do that I had problems on the one I did for myself is back in here, because this is just a soft, oops, sorry about that. Let's switch hands. Back here, where this is just a soft edge, I took a X-Acto knife and I actually scribed a line the whole way around this fender in here. So I had a little edge that I could go to, and it made it easier for me. Again, you don't have to do that. That's just what I did. So what I used for paint for this is I used Tamiya. This is light ghost gray lacquer. And this is a flat color. On my other one that I did, I actually sprayed Tamiya spray right on the plastic, and I didn't even prime it or nothing. This one here I did prime with, I used Tamiya primer, and then this is lacquer that I used. In fact, I just used their lacquer thinner with it. I didn't do nothing special for it. If I would have been using a different color that would have been glossy, I probably wouldn't have put clear on it. But because this was flat, and I wanted to try a new clear, and when I tell you about this clear, this is I tried this Duplicolor. Let me back up here a minute. Hold on. I wanted to try this Duplicolor 1K clear that I've heard a lot of people talking about, saying how good it is and everything. So I thought, oh, this would be a good project to try this on. So I went down this road of using this clear, and then that led me to a rabbit hole. So I want to discuss that first before we get back to this. So I wanted to decant the Duplicolor spray can into a container, and then I used remember I told you how I cut these off, and I put that spray nozzle, right in there. Now I would have rubber gloves on, but if you put that right in there, it sprays right into the, it sprays right into this little jar, really nice and easy, and you hardly make a mess. And from there, you can put it in your airbrush either by using a fresh one of these and using it, where you're suctioning it out and putting it in your gun, or you can just pour it in your gun. But I like that way. It works good for me. But I don't know, I can't remember. Of course I can't remember, because that's just the way I am. I can't remember whether someone told me that someone sprayed this stuff out of an airbrush and not out of the can, and it turned yellow on him. And that's bogus. That doesn't happen. But what I did discover when I sprayed this into a jar, this clear is already brown. it almost looks like the old Testors enamel clear. You know how you get it, and it's like kind of amber yellow in the container. So this was already yellowed, and I'm surprised by that because if it's a 1K clear, you know, your 2K clears are really clear, and I figured the 1K clear would be the same way, but it wasn't. So then I grabbed a test body. I just grabbed one out of the batch here, and I painted it, half of it, and you can clearly see where this is yellow, and here's the raw body. So I would recommend, now I like the way this stuff sprayed. I would recommend that you don't use this on really light colored cars, especially if you're trying to keep a white, without knowing that this is going to kind of yellow it to start with. And for what we're doing, that is fine, but you can clearly see it's a little bit more on the, you know, it's a little bit, it made it a little darker, and I'm fine with that on this car. It didn't really matter to me, and it may tend to keep yellowing. I have no idea. I've never used it before, but I'm okay on that. But what I also discovered is, see here how it's really rough, and you know, I mean, it sprayed pretty well on my gun, but I sanded and polished this half here, and this stuff really polished up nice. Like I polished this area right here, and this stuff really polished out nice. I really like the way it sanded. It cut easy. And this is a side that I just painted. I didn't, this side hasn't been sanded or nothing. I just have to go. So this and this still have the original. And there's dirt and stuff in it because I wouldn't, you know, I just blew it on there to see what I was more worried about the color, but I really like the way this sanded and smoothed out. Now I just did my Fiat body in clear. Now this one here I did with the airbrush. I just did my Fiat, and I just shot it straight out of the can, and I really can't tell that much of a difference. I think spraying it out of the can is just as easy. The finish, the nozzle on this has a really fine spray to it. It actually sprays nice out of the can. I don't think I'm gonna decant it anymore. I think it sprays fine out of the can. And I waited 10 minutes between each coat. I did a light dusting and then waited 10 minutes. Not necessarily on this, but on my one I sprayed out of the can, I did wait the required 10 minutes to spray. Now, I don't know if you can go back and recoat this later on or not. I haven't tried that. But as far as just spraying it over raw plastic or spraying it over this lacquer, it really came out nice. Now I wasn't gonna get carried away on this. I wasn't gonna wet sand it and do all that, but I ended up wet sanding the hood and the fenders. But it turned out really, really nice. I'm really happy with it. All right, so that's that rabbit hole. So then I also had to, I went ahead and got all my panels ready, and I had to, all my windows, well, let's talk about the base colors. So to start Lylewood, you need, the base color on all this is going to be bright yellow. This is what we start with. Now I started with this first, and it wasn't quite bright enough, so I ended up going back and adding this. Oops. Oh, gotta fall. Hold on. Now again, when I originally did mine, I still had the Testors Model Master stuff, and of course you can't get that anymore. So I wanted to switch to Vallejo, and this is flat yellow. This is 7953. And then I use this flat yellow, which is 79. Oh, it's the same. Why does it look brighter in there? It must be the container. It's the same color. Huh. Look at that. New container versus old container. I didn't even look at the number on that. So I've been using the same thing. All right, well then we'll just look at this. This is what I've been using. But you don't need to use this brand. You don't need to use, you can use any brand you want, as long as it's a bright yellow. And then I have a light tan that I'm going to be using. And this is Iraqi sand 7819. And it's just a lighter sand or lighter tan. And then I got a medium. This is Orch Brown 70856. It's like a medium. So we got light, medium. and then bright yellow. And then I'm gonna use, I'm not sure, I have some light rust, and this is 71129. And also I'm gonna use, I still have some Model Masters rust because I didn't have time to, and I might even use a little brown. And this is 77871 leather brown. I might use a little bit of brown in there, but we're gonna be using all those colors. And again, there is no set rule. The only set rule I have is you got to use yellow as the base. That's this. This is the secret, yellow. And I would have never thought to use yellow, but that's what we're using. So what I did is I went ahead, because I wanted to do this tutorial today. I went ahead and whoops, we got a dog barking. Hang on. All right, I'm back. So I went ahead and did some of my yellow panels, and when you put these on here, you want to be like, you don't want it even, you want it splotchy. So you don't want it consistent, because wood isn't consistent. Wood has different shades and colors and personality. So you want to do that. And then I had to pre-paint all my windows to glass. I pre-painted them white, like I think I showed on the last video. I pre-painted those white, and so I already did the first coat of yellow on those because I want to show the next step. And again, this is latex or acrylic, water-based. So if you get something on the edge, if you go over, just take a toothpick if you want, and you can just go in there and kind of scratch it out of the way. So those are ready. And then so here's my color chart. Let's go ahead and start showing you how to lay out the yellow on this. So we're gonna start with this one. So I'm just grabbing a couple brushes. Now for this one, I don't need to be as neat because I don't have to worry about, going, but this here will have to be a little bit neater. So this one, we're just gonna get some yellow. And we're just gonna throw it on here. And I'm taking a little bit at a time. And then we're just, doesn't have to be, neat. You just need to get it on there. Make sure you get that top lip on that, because that's going to be part of the, that's going to show on the inside. And at least have some yellow like in here, down in this corner, so that you don't have any reflection on that. So you're just gonna, color that up until you end up with this. And that's what I've done here on the back window, inside back window. And that's what I've done with the inside windows. And then that's what I already did on this side, just so you can see what that looks like. This is going to be foil. It's going to have foil on it. The door hinges are body color, so I already got them in body color. But again, you're just going in there and, see how splotchy that is? That's what you want. You don't want it all even. Okay. Make sure you get inside of here on this edge, because those windows, I don't think that's gonna cover. Yes, that's gonna go up in there like that. All right, so then you're gonna get all that looking like that. That's what you wanna end up with. Now again, it doesn't really matter that I get it up here, but we're gonna paint this black. That's gonna be the last thing we do. And that we're gonna do flat black with my Krylon flat crystal clear on top of it. And then when we get done with this wood, my other one, I did a satin finish. I think a lot of the woodies are actually varnished in gloss, but I think Lyle does his gloss. I didn't like it in gloss. I did mine like satin, but you can choose to do yours whatever you want. If you want gloss, you can put gloss on it. But when I do the gloss, I'm gonna hand put it on, like almost like a varnish. And that doesn't have to be perfect either, because if you look at woodies, a lot of times they got, the wood is kind of, it's not perfectly smooth like the body would be. It'd be a little, it'd have brush strokes and stuff in it. So that's the way we're gonna do all our colors that way, and we're gonna do all our stuff like that. So, all right, so there we have. So now let's just say we all got our yellow done. That's our yellow. And now we're gonna go to, the first color we're gonna go to is the light tan that we have. Let's get all this out of the way. These are just some wheels I stuck underneath there so you can get a visual on what we're looking at. Let's do that while we're here. So it's already starting to take some shape. Now you can put any wheels you want. I just grabbed these off the desk. You got stock ones. I did paint the stock rims, so you can do stock wheels. You can do white walls, black walls, whatever. When whoever gets this down the road, whatever you want to do, you can either go stock with it, or you can go hot rod, but it will have basically a stock body. So, oops, I want to do that. All right, so we're gonna do the light tan next. If I got any left in here. Uh-oh, I'm gonna have to go grab another bottle. Here we go. All right, so got a little light tan. And we're gonna do the same thing. So this is the effect of what you wanna have on the light tan. Okay, so let's compare. Again, it's kind of splotchy. It's not, we're just starting to tone things down a little bit. So here's one I got done. Because all the wood on the inside is basically going to be the lighter, what we're calling blonde wood. It's all going to be the blonde wood on the inside. And all this framework would be the blonde wood. And the only thing that we're going to have dark is these panels. And honestly, at that point, you could use the decals for that if you really, really wanted to. I don't know how they fit. I never used those decals, but you could use those decals if you wanted to. If you wanted to do this part of it and not do the other part. So, and we're doing this the same way. We're getting not a lot of paint. You want to kind of stay on the dry side. I'll just show you doing this here. We're just gonna, rub it in. This is more like dry brushing. You don't want your brush real wet. You can always go back and add more. Again, it's kind of like weathering. You just, if you don't have heavy paint on there, you can always add more. So you want to get it just kind of looking like that. And again, a lot of this in the interior, you're not even going to see it hardly at all. It's hard to see in there. Okay, so then we're going to get it looking like that. And then the next color is we're going to use this. So this is a little darker brown. And again, if you get further and you want it darker, you just go back and, you know, add some of the earlier colors. But as long as you have that yellow base, you should be fine. So this is our third color. So our third color the thing about dry brushing is you can kind of, you know, blend it in areas that you see you want to get a little bit more. It's starting to take a little personality. This is a good one to do because it has the wood grain effect already in there. So again, here we got, you know, and again, you can add it to make darker or lighter. It really doesn't matter. So then after that color, we're going to move to, now this isn't really, this is Model Air. This isn't really made to, but this is thinner. So we're going to go ahead and use it. Or maybe we'll do the rust. No, let's do this. We'll use some of this. Now this, you got to really be careful with this color because we don't want a lot of the darker colors in here because we want to use that for our darker wood. But we're just going to use a little bit of this. As you get these darker colors, you want to be a little more conservative. You know, you don't want to get too much of this on there. You just want to hit some highlights. So there's that. And then the last one we're going to do, my old one I used a little black on it, but if you use black, you gotta really be really careful. We're going to use a little brown. And again, we're really going to dry brush the brown. I don't want much of that at all. You want that brush really dry. And that we just want to hit, you know, just want to hit some of these edges. Oops, there's a little. Well, that got a little darker than I really wanted it to, but oh well. That's a dirty piece of wood. That's where everybody was grabbing it on the back. And then, so now I pre-did the top. So there we kind of like are in that phase on the top. And then I took my rapidograph and did that. So I took a rapidograph pen, my technical pen, and I still might add, this one might darken up a little bit, but I took my, let me go find it. I took my rapidograph. Make sure it works. And then I was going in here and just filling that in. Now, I know this top part is a lot of work, and you honestly cannot see this at all. Like, you can't see this in the car at all. You cannot see it. So it's kind of like, in one ways it's a waste, but I know it's in there, and it really looks cool when you're putting this together. But once you get it together, it's almost impossible to see. And see how that darkened that color, you know, just, it kind of darkened all this up, you know. But that's the way I did that. So that's going to be about it for today. So putting those 4 colors, you can pretty much get the light wood done. And I'm a little dark here, but that's on the inside. When you come back, I'll have all these pieces. The next time we'll look at finishing up, the light wood will be done, and we'll just go in and we'll show how to do. So the inside of that is going to use these darker, the rust that I have. I'll be using this. I'll be using brown. I'll probably be using just a touch of black. I'll be using this. But, you know, when you're putting that on, still put all the colors that we have put here. Go ahead and put that throughout. You don't have to be careful in just putting it on the outside edge. You can just go ahead and you know, fluff that on there, dry brushing it. And, you know, if you make a boo-boo on that paint, you just need to get a Q-tip, or I use these Amazon. I've picked up these little fine ones instead of buying the ones at Hobby Lobby. You can get like I don't know, 100 or 500 of these for like pretty cheap. You know, just make that wet. You get it on your paint, you can take it right off as you're going, so you can get that all cleaned off. So next time you come back, or I come back, we'll have this whole thing looking something like this, and we'll be ready to do the dark wood. All this will be ready to do the dark wood, and then after the dark wood, then we'll put the varnish on it. Once that's dry, once the varnish is on it, then the thing I have left to do is paint the top separately. That's pretty much it. This is a little bit, because of the way the fenders and stuff are on here and the front cowl, it is a little work beforehand to get to the wood, but I think this is the best way to do it. And we're gonna have, I'm gonna put the foil in here for you, and I'm gonna have the chip guards painted black, and we'll have it all. The body, like I said, the body will be done. I pre-signed it. But somewhere down the road, we're going to give this away. So I hope that wasn't, that's kind of long for me. I hope that wasn't too much information in a short amount of time. So questions, comments, smart remarks, I like them all. And then I'll get back to you for probably the final video will be the next one. So we'll see you next time on Art or Rake.